I'm Theron Ramacharaka. Greetings. Somebody asked me some years ago under a video that I had posted on my original Theron Ramacharaka channel. Somebody asked me something about speaking or talking, how to put more power into their words, I believe it was. I made this video back, I made a reply to that comment under a video, so I had to keep it brief. And the reply was this. I wrote this back then. This was 2015, in fact. A list of 19 things. Actually, there were 20, but I'm going to change the last one and kind of wing it because I want to add something in here. The 20th item in this list of tips was just practice. But I have another thing to say here when I get to that. How to answer this question in short here in the comment section? Well, let's see. Well, to go about efficiently making this happen effectively, some sort of systematic training would serve instrumentally. Various bits of knowledge and skills play into the affair. You know how to put more power into your words when speaking your truth. Knowledge and skills play into the affair and is probably best when these are brought to bear in a logical sequence. But here I just confidently assert that the following should help. These following propositions form a set that denote interacting states of affairs. These all kind of work together, in other words. And each one of these can unpack to involve more than what they might at first appear to involve. Number one, bear in mind that attention should always involve calmness and confidence. Now, this might not sound relevant right now, but it is. Remember, these are interacting states of affairs. Attention should always involve calmness and confidence, and trained attention must involve them, or it will create stress. Honed concentration requires them, or it will tax the energy supply. Proposition number two, will and attention have a close relationship with one another. 3, the manifested creative life principle creates living things that are ensouled at least with will. Universal will. Now, we are such things, living things that are ensouled at least with will. We too have the power to do this, create things that are ensouled at least with will, but to a lesser degree, at the microcosmic level, that is. Number 4, our thought vibrations and mental images are creative. Number 5, our power to work in these directions is will. See how this is kind of starting to fit together, I hope? Number 6, there is life in everything. Number 7, we can will to will. Number 8, we can accurately perceive our mental images as entities if we put our will into them. Number 9, we can accurately perceive our words as being endowed with life if we intend them to have a life of their own, roughly put. Number 10, we can do something in the normal, nearly mindless way, or we can do it with much mind thrown into the doing. 11, we can do the same with will. But most of us are less familiar with that than we are with the notion of throwing our mind into doing something. We can throw our will into doing something too. 12, we can find a way to get a grip on the will side of this by practicing willing to will first and observing how that works. That would be throwing our will into willing. Practicing willing to will. And once we see how that works, then we can practice throwing our will into our our words. 13. Then we can practice throwing our will into our words, yes, thereby ensouling them, and so giving them, roughly put, a life of their own. 14. Now this all requires focused attention. Here comes the attention part again. To each part of this process. 15. That's why a logical sequence of training in these directions is useful, but it can be done on your own. Just try to figure out a logical sequence for you to follow to develop this. Using these propositions as guidelines. 17. Mentally imaging this happening, all of it, at every part, helps dramatically. Use your imagination. Imaging. Imagination. 18. Mentally imaging what you are talking about with your words when you speak helps a bit too. Quite a bit. 19. Going about all this with calmness and confidence, built right into it, is vital. And here we reach 20 where I had simply written here, practice, practice, practice. But here I want to replace that so that we have a nice 20. An even number here, 20. Replace, of course, practice, practice, practice should not be deleted or omitted here. But I'm going to, all right, number 21. This has to do with cryptic language. Cryptic use of natural language. Natural language is, well, a lot of misunderstanding can come and does come with natural language. I've said that here before in another video about talking somewhere. I said that in one of the videos here about talking. I get confused over this. Not over how to say this, but in daily practice, talking with people. It seems to be in our civilized or domesticated lifestyle or way of life that people try to avoid misunderstanding by speaking cryptically. They don't say exactly what they're trying to get at. Maybe they don't know how to. That's unfortunate. That might be a product of living a domesticated life. Also, some people tend to have a rather, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it, manipulative way of talking. Or maybe we want to call it diplomatic. Even being politically correct. Not wanting to step on people's toes. Often this may be done with good intentions. But at the bottom of it is not being direct. Being indirect. Making inferences. Now, this is where it gets confusing for me in actual practice with other people. I have trouble understanding the nuances or this cryptic use of natural language that many people involve themselves with. Like they're trying to get a point across, but they don't say the point. They say something different. And it seems to me that many people pick up on this stuff right away, and they know what's being got at. I have trouble with that. Here would be an example of such a thing. Let's say person A notices that person B is speaking in a very indirect way. There are hidden meanings. They don't want to be direct because they don't want to hurt my feelings. Or that person, he, she, whatever, whoever. So I want to ask about this. But I don't want to point out this thing to this person directly. because I don't want to step on toes, let's say. So I may ask a question saying, or asking, I tend to speak indirectly to people, which maybe I think I do sometimes, but in a different way or with different motives than this other person might have. So it may appear that assumptions are coming in here. But to continue, I may ask, I tend to speak indirectly. If you ever notice me doing that, would you please point it out? Because things can get confusing that way, and I might not realize when I'm doing it. Or maybe I am actually noticing that I do that, and I got reminded of it by perceiving the other person doing that. So maybe I am asking a question directly about me. Now, this other person doesn't know which is which, doesn't know which I really am getting at. But this person may assume I'm talking about them, regardless of whether I really am. And they might say, oh, you're talking about me. You're saying I do that. Well, and there may be a misunderstanding occur right then and there. In fact, this person might feel that their toes got stepped on. Now, let's say I was really asking about me and not them. But I'm asking that person because they seem to be good at this thing that I'm uncomfortable with thinking I do. And I'm asking about me because I might not know when I'm doing it. And I think maybe this person knows when they're doing it and they're doing it on purpose. And maybe I see that there's benefit in doing it when it's known. You know, when the person doing it knows they're doing it, maybe I see that works for them, but it doesn't work for me, so I would like some advice, and that's what I'm asking for. Could you point out when I'm doing that? I'd like to know. Let's say that I was asking a direct question with no hidden agendas about the other person, but this person then takes it that I'm talking about them and they're offended. This sort of thing can happen, and it does happen all the time. And now, see, there is a difference. The difference there, the misunderstanding, from one point of view here, or at one level of talking, came from one person understanding hidden messages and learning how to use them diplomatically, or in a so-called politically correct manner, a very domesticated manner, whereas the other person, in this example, it would be me, in this hypothetical case that I'm making here, don't understand it very well. Now, I'm pointing this out because I want, if we are going to evolve as a species and work cooperatively in this natural language usage way of life we have, work cooperatively to help evolve humanity and rise above influences that are probably affecting us from a very organized and planned out by an organized group of beings, entities, and people who have the power to pull the strings of our domesticated lives, enslave us. We need to be able to communicate well with each other. And probably one way to keep us from being able to do that is to keep us impose upon us many different ways to keep us from being able to do that. From let's say, not allowing us to organize into groups behind closed doors without surveillance, by imposing certain laws on our activities, monitoring our phone calls, who knows, right? And also keeping us confused over our uses of natural language through the education system and other ways. Throwing words at us that shape our perceptions of affairs. For example, be careful of this one. Let's say in this war on terror that's going on in the world, we have on one hand the Allied forces, the United States, Britain, and Australia at least, the Allied forces versus those nasty, evil insurgents over there in the Middle East. Insurgents. Now, for many people, as soon as they hear these terms, especially if they belong to one of those Allied force countries, right away, the term insurgent means bad guy, right? Not just because that's how the word has been used, but just because of the word itself. What's it sound like to you? Think about that. Insurge, gent, agent, gent, male, gent. Male agent of insurging. Doesn't that sound violently sexual? Or like sexual violence, rape? An unwanted intrusion into a sacred place that's personal and private. An insurgent, inwardly surging. Like a flood in your house, a surge of some kind of liquid coming in, seeking to take over power, willfully, masculine, gender stuff, willpower, incoming surge. Yeesh. And Allied forces. On the other hand, allies are friends who come to help you in your time of need. And a force, as opposed to a power pushes outward things into action. In this, and they may push in, but it's an outward flow, willpower to get things into action. Whether it's going into something to do that or whatever, but it's the will itself is something that kind of pushes. Okay, a force draws, pulls, like desire. That's the feminine side. So doesn't this sound like women getting together against rapists, sexual predators? The sound of it, the subconscious impressions made, the insurgents, we, the Allied forces, are ready to go battle those insurgents. Be careful of this stuff. Now, similarly, not the same thing though, but people may have their hidden messages, whether or not they mean to do this. And others may not understand it. Like the first example of the hypothetical case I was giving. So also watch out for that. Others may not understand you if you are speaking directly, because they may think they have to look for a hidden message. And it can happen the other way around. This confuses me. I don't do hidden meanings very well. I'm not very good at using them. And I'm not very good at understanding them or picking up on them or knowing what if I do pick up that there's some kind of a hidden thing here that's not being said outrightly, and forthrightly, straightforwardly, but I'm not sure what it is. Whereas with other people, it's very simple. This is how they expect communication to occur. And this can lead to a lot of misunderstanding. It does for me, I think. I find natural language to be difficult enough without this element involved. But this element seems to be involved a lot also with human beings. Now, I don't know the solution. I could propose a solution, be direct. But then that can cause a lot of trouble in our domesticated use of natural language. I don't know the solution, ultimately. It seems to me to be better to just be direct, but others may not be expecting that, and so they look for something hidden when there isn't one. It's a complicated affair. I just want you to be aware of it and employ these other 20 things in developing power in your words so that you can speak your truth quietly and put power into them. Okay? Get your point across calmly and confidently and bring life to your words. And maybe try to, circumvent the possibility of misunderstanding. If you do speak your truth and build in these other aspects that I have brought forth here in this video, I think you have a better chance of what you really mean, which hopefully corresponds with what you're actually saying, across to the other person, regardless of how they think about natural language. All right, then. I'm Theron Ramacharaka. Be well.